Mark was heading off to college, his girlfriend too. Unfortunately for them though, the institutions they'd been accepted to were on opposite sides of the country. They had known this day was coming for a long time and had been preparing for it. It was going to be tough, but they were committed, and Mark had devised a way for them to still spend time together. Mark was an extremely avid gamer, and his girlfriend Emily had always been keen to take more interest in his hobby. Now seemed like the perfect time. Mark had bought her a used gaming laptop and had set it up so that they could game together, and therefore stay together. They went their separate ways, and within a few days they were hundreds of miles apart and set up in their new surroundings. Emily in a share house with 3 other girls, and Mark in a dormitory on campus, sharing a room with a quiet, bookish guy from Utah. Emily and Mark initially spent many months gaming together, but as these things go, there seemed to be so much more on offer at college. The parties, the extracurricular activities, and of course, the study. In time, they slowly grew apart, and Emily made the decision to break up with Mark. He was shattered, unconsolable by his buddies. He became somewhat of a recluse and shut everyone out. For Emily, her new life was a breath of fresh air, away from the computer and out and about with her friends at any opportunity that arose. She soon realized that she was happier than she'd been in years. That was, until she started to receive some disturbing messages from an unknown number. "I've missed you. When are you going to game again?" She texted back, "I've moved on. Please respect that." There was no reply, until a few days later when the messages became more pointed and concerning. "Why are you never around anymore? I miss you. Log on, would you? Let's play. Answer me." Frustrated, she tried calling the number with the intention of politely telling Mark to stop, but there was no answer. She then called his real number, the number she had stored in her phone. Still, there was no answer. She decided to leave it and headed out with her friends for the night. As fate would have it, she hooked up with a boy and brought him back to her share house. Around 3 a.m. the next day, she received another text. "You slut! How dare you! You know you're mine!" Distressed by this, she blocked the number and had a sleepless night thinking about how Mark might be stalking her and that she would need to be more careful from now on. The next evening, as she sat at her desk flicking through her course textbook, trying to focus on her studies, she received yet another text. "Don't think you can hide from me. I'm watching you." Terrified, she peered out her window to the street below. It was dark, and she saw nothing. Then, another text. "Don't try to look for me. You'll never find me." She dropped to the floor by her bed. Frustrated, angry, and scared, she tried calling Mark again, but there was no answer. Feeling helpless, she then tried calling his parents. They answered. She explained what Mark was doing and if they could please get in touch with him because she couldn't, and tell him to stop. They were confused. They told her that since the breakup, Mark had dropped out and was now backpacking through Europe. They had only just FaceTimed him an hour ago, and they had no doubt that he was in Paris. Frightened and bewildered, she hung up the call and sat alone in the dark and cried. Then, another message. "Don't cry." And then another. "You don't look as pretty when you cry." Emily looked up and looked all around and made the chilling realization that she was indeed being watched. Someone had been watching her this entire time, for several months, non-stop, through her laptop. the laptop that Mark had bought for her through Craigslist. She walked over to it, stared into the camera, and gave it the middle finger. She then slammed it shut and threw it to the floor, smashing it to pieces. It was over. Well, it was for her. The man who had sold Mark the computer had sold dozens of other PCs, laptops, and phones to unsuspecting customers over the years, and he had set them up so that he could watch every single one of them. And perhaps one of them is you. Thank you to all who support us through Patreon. If you'd like to support us, there's a link in the description below. And a special thanks goes out to the Dark Cosmos who bought us lunch. It's very much appreciated. Oh, and in case you were wondering, Emily's phone was also purchased through Craigslist.